Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic SatAM, is an American animated TV series based on the video game series of the same name. It premiered on September 18th, 1993, and ended on December 3rd, 1994, with a cliffhanger after Season 2.
Yep, it's official. Sonic SatAM is now 6 years older than I am. That's crazy for me to think about, but it really goes to show you just how timeless of a cartoon Sonic SatAM really is. I mean, even now, in 2018, a large portion of Sonic fans consider Sonic SatAM to be one of, if not the best interpretation of the Sonic the Hedgehog universe. That, or the Archie comic book series which followed the same basic premise. Both unfortunately cancelled, but both to this day still support significantly sized fan bases. That is pretty awesome. That is way past cool. But it also got me thinking. Today is the 25th anniversary of Sonic SatAM, so I figured, why not huddle us all together and do something about it? And not just Shadow Enterprises, all of you, all of us, Sonic fans. Because the fans are what keeps it alive. Whether that be through fan art, fan fiction, music reviews, anything and everything. There are thousands of people around the world that love Sonic SatAM. And honestly, I don't think we need a reminder of that. But in light of this special moment, I feel like the show deserves a little celebration right now. And with that being said, well, you've heard enough from me, so take it away, guys.
Growing up as a little kid, I used to watch SatAM a lot. To honestly, truth, looking back on it, it was the freaking best shit ever. It was really awesome. And the ending, though, of like Dr. Robotnik screaming the exploding bass is really pretty epic for an ending. But I actually have met the voice actor of Dr. Robotnik. I would have never known that he'd voiced other characters. Now, personally, it's not often I get to meet my favorite voice actors, but meeting him, his name was Jim Cummings. Little short old man. He's really funny, though. But if I ever got to see him again, I would just ask him, so, Jim, if you ever got to, like, be in Sonic Boom, would you like them to bring back Dr. Robotnik from SatAM and be like, yes, time to kill the animals? I actually would love that, though. Oh, my goodness. I mean, only because I was just saying that because I'll be doing a thing as Dr. Robotnik, so I took great inspiration from him and stuff, so I really can't wait. But, yeah, I'm so glad that we could be here for the 25th anniversary, and like, oh my god, it's just so great, I love that show so much. But, yeah, but if you have not seen SatAM yet, definitely go check it out. And, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to, like, the 25th anniversary and many more to come. Hopefully Jim Cummings does make a recurrence as Dr. Robotnik for, hopefully, Sonic Boom. If not, well, I hope so. Alright.
On September 18th, 1993, a milestone event took place that would provide the building blocks to a Speedy Blue Hedgehog's growing success. Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, he has a vast dichotomy of lore, but what will always stand out the most to me was the 1993 animated series simply called Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, while there were two cartoons airing simultaneously, my interest has always been the Saturday morning version, also known as SatAM. Its engaging cast of original characters, dark overtones, and compelling narrative is why I became a fan of the Sonic franchise in general. The show has made so much of an impact that the stories continued throughout a long-running comic series penned by Archie up until 2017. Not bad, right? Especially for a publication that was based on a short-lived cartoon. That's quite an accomplishment. Now, Sonic and the Freedom Fighters may have concluded their adventures after a quarter of a century, but the emphatic support of the fan base will undoubtedly keep their legend alive. Not only do I consider SatAM Sonic to be the greatest video game cartoon, but also ranks as one of my favorite animated shows of all time. I guess in closing, raise your chili dogs or whatever you got to the tactical chipmunk princess, the sweet young strong cyborg Rabot, the cowardly yet comedic Coyote, the modest handyman walrus, the plucky young two-tailed fox, and of course, the fastest thing alive, Sonic the Hedgehog. Happy 25th, Freedom Fighters. May your legend be passed down to the next generation for all to cherish. And to possibly get that long-awaited third season made, or getting them a cameo in the upcoming movie franchise, even if it's minor.
Hi, guys. I'm what you might call one of the older generations of fans. First wave, of course. I grew up with Sonic, and I grew up with SatAM. One thing a lot of people don't really remember or realize because they weren't there is that for the longest time, the American universe of Sonic was pretty much the only universe of Sonic. There was no fleshed out storylines, no Sonic Adventure, no Sonic X, not even the OAV. The side-scroller games were actually super awesome to me as a kid because the lack of really fleshed out storyline let you kind of make up an adventure. So one of my favorite things always used to be wander around the levels and imagine that he was going through the Great Forest. And, Sonic really had my imagination as a kid. And SatAM was a huge part of it. One of the great things about it is that I think it presented a storytelling model that maybe today we can see a little bit of in a lot of more modern cartoons. But you didn't see that so much then. There was a sweeping story arc, and everything seemed so dire, and the characters were so likable, and you wanted them to succeed, but you really couldn't tell how that would be possible. I think it was precisely because there wasn't really so much attention on it that the show was able to become something different. It had a lot of elements of science fiction. The background music was actually perfect for it. Shades of Back to the Future kind of kept you in a state of wonder and excitement. I don't know if you can tell, but I loved Sally. She was a great female role model type character. That seems silly now, but, come on. I was 10, and she was strong and smart and pretty. She didn't take crap, but she was kind-hearted. I loved Sonic's attitude. Jaleel White is my Sonic. He could be kind of a jerk, but he wasn't really a jerk, It's kind of hard to pull that off. I was also a huge Star Trek fan at the time. I used to play with my Star Trek toys quite a bit as a child, and I would sort of use my toys for Sonic make-believe as well. I fashioned my own Freedom Fighter action figures out of broken up pieces of other toys I wasn't using anymore. I built my own version of Robotropolis out of cardboard boxes. I used to pretend that my tricorder was Nicole, and the bridge and transporter from Star Trek quickly became the roboticizer room, of course. Yeah, there was a lot of imagination involved. And the way I channeled my imagination was kind of like how the show did. There wasn't any set guideline yet for what Sonic would be. It could have been anything. I want to say I've met so many wonderful people all throughout my life because of a shared love of this show. Sonic has changed a lot over the past couple decades, and I think that's okay. The show and Sonic eventually did get the attention that it always deserved, and a lot of people's imaginations were involved in that. I'm grateful for the spark and creativity that Sonic has helped to inspire for me, and all the wonderful people that I've met as a result of that. And I'm really glad that so many fans have managed to stay inspired and keep this thing alive.
The show is amazing. I love the characters, the plot, the world, and everything. I like the relationships of and interactions between Sonic, Sally, Tails, Anthony, Bunny, and everybody else. And Eggman was also amazing because surprisingly he's menacing, in the show. So yeah, that's what I really like about it. It has a lot of charm. It has great characters, pretty good humor, and an all-around amazing show. and I would love to see this come back.
The classic Sonic games have been my favorite video games of all time, but I have not known about Sonic SatAM till probably about 3 years ago. So, despite being a 90s person, I did not get to watch the show till pretty recently. But I have to admit that this show touches a pretty soft spot in my heart. I really enjoy the characters a lot. Thought they were detailed enough. I wish the show would have gone on so that some of the other characters would have got more spotlight on them. But the characters are pretty decent, and I enjoy them far more than what I've seen in most of the other Sonic incarnations. I love the fact that it took place on Mobius on a world that's totally different from our own. There was no real Earth presence or anything like that. It was its own story, it's its own setting. And what's neat is that the classic Sonic games, they didn't really have much of a storyline other than Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which was still pretty minimal. And this Sonic SatAM just gave an opportunity to just kind of just create a whole setting for what could have been, what Sonic could have been living through, what type of characters he had been interacting with, how Robotnik acted, and just how the whole world operated. And I will also admit that God's pretty much used Sonic SatAM in some very interesting ways in my life, just even with maturing about certain things. And I'll say this, that Sonic SatAM is a show that I probably will always keep in my heart no matter what. It's just there to stay. And I do hope someday that I'm intending to write a story just based on Sonic and some of the SatAM characters and some of the plots that will be in it, and I'm hoping that, eventually that desire will come true and that I can just show some respect and just tip my hat off to Sonic SatAM for what it is.
Sonic SatAM is one of the greatest shows I watched as a kid in Geeky Entertainment. Like we know from the games Sonic, Tails, and Dr. Robotnik / Eggman. There were some other characters that were in the show, like Sally Acorn, Uncle Chuck, Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, Snively, and I believe Dulcie the Dragon. It's kind of nice having these characters back in the Archie comics and Sonic Universe's comics. It's kind of interesting the characters interact with the other Sonic characters. But yeah, I would like to say happy birthday to Sonic SatAM. And you know what Sonic says? Let's do it to it!
Hey there, my name is Anthony Legato, or as my friends also call me, A-Log. And, wow. Talking about Sonic SatAM is really bringing back a lot of memories for me. I mean, it was one of the best Saturday morning shows. And as a Sonic fan since 1991, it was the thing to look forward to during the fall of 1993. Wow. And it was sort of like the best thing on television and also one of the best pieces of Sonic fandom ever. I mean, you had the Freedom Fighters, who were originally in the comic. The comic came out before the show, mind you. And it was all so perfect. You got Kath Sose as Princess Sally Acorn, Rob Paulson as Antoine, the late Christine Cavanaugh as Bunny Rabbit. Who else? You got Jim Cummings as Dr. Robotnik, Charlie Adler as Snively, and to be honest, I wasn't keen on Jaleel White being Sonic at first, because I thought he was going to sound like Urkel. When that episode premiered, when the first episode premiered and I first heard Jaleel as Sonic, I thought, wow, he's got range. I guess that Urkel voice wasn't the only thing he could do. Let's see, I know that Sonic's Nightmare also was one of the more scary episodes. Wow, but everything was like so action-packed. It was great. It was every bit of awesome for any kid. I could recommend it to anybody.
What can I say about Sonic the Hedgehog SatAM, except...
It's way past cool!
Well, actually, there's a lot more I can say about it. I grew up with this series, and it really meant the world to me growing up. And it kept switching time slots, it seemed like, so every time I would catch it, it would be like a special treat. And the thing about the series that was really emotionally impactful was that it was very dark and felt very real. Unlike a lot of other cartoons that were on at the time, instead of just being like purely comedy-based, this one was actually, like I said before, really dark, and it had a lot of like serious plot elements, and I really liked how the Freedom Fighters wouldn't always win. There'd be losses involved too, which I think that's really important for telling a good story, one that feels real. The series also had an amazing soundtrack, and it had some of the best voice actors you could think of. I really, really admired Jaleel White's take on Sonic. It was just unlike any voice you'd ever heard, and he really made him sound fast. Gave him attitude. I like that. The fact that this is a series that can make you laugh and make you cry and make you really feel something just within like the 22 minutes that the episode was on is really, really something special, especially as a kid. One of the other things about this show that was so special to me growing up is it actually took up a big chunk of my childhood playing pretend with my friends. It was pretty crazy, actually. I had like 4 friends at the time that were into Sonic just like I was, and each one of them fit one of the characters' personalities in the Sonic universe or the SatAM show very, very closely. I was Sonic, of course, but one of the things that made it feel so real is that like not everyone tried to pick the same character, and we'd have elements from the games too, but the main universe that when we'd play pretend that we'd kind of be in was the SatAM universe. And I know, I just think that show just has an amazing atmosphere, and it's something that really resonated with us as children. But anyways, that's just some of it. I mean, there's so much more I could say, but I'm going to wrap this up right now. I hope SatAM keeps living on forever in people's hearts, because it's such an amazing show. But yeah, I'm getting sappy. But that's why we're here, isn't it? See you guys.
Oh my stars, has it really been a whole 25 years since SatAM's Sonic the Hedgehog premiered on ABC in 1993? My, how time flies when you're having supersonic fun. But I guess it has been. You know, all these years later and we still remember. What drives us, longtime fans and new fans, to appreciate the show and still remember it 2.5 decades after it first premiered? Oh, sure, that juggernaut that is called Power Rangers was ultimately responsible for the downfall of the show, drawing in viewers from other channels like a black hole draws in matter. Unfortunately, this led to lower ratings for SatAM than it deserved, which is why it got retooled for Season 2 and was cancelled afterwards. But from the first 2 seasons, we were able to find a memorable cast of characters, and the show itself, like its characters, was a group of underdogs. Sonic, Tails, Sally, Bunny, Antoine, Dulcie, Uncle Chuck, and all the other freedom fighters fighting just to liberate themselves and their planet, or like the show itself, underdogs fighting against a large, oppressive outside force just for their continued existence. Well, SatAM may have given us over 24 episodes, but alas, it was only 24 and change. But us fans still remember it, because it had heart, it had character, memorable and witty writing with funny moments amongst all of the danger and excitement. And that's why fans like I are still fans today. That's why I created a 25th anniversary fan-made computer game at nz17.com, which can be downloaded on September 18th, 2018, and why we fans should go and let other fans, the newer generations, know that SatAM is way past cool.
Hello everyone, this is Shadow the Hedgehog, and the reason why I'm here is simple. I am here to wish SatAM a happy 25th anniversary. So, happy 25th anniversary, SatAM. Is that right? I think so. Yeah, next!
Hello everybody, my name is Pandamation, and today I'm here to talk about my thoughts on the SatAM animated series. If you're not familiar with the SatAM series, it's a series based on Sonic the Hedgehog in the 1990s. I'm here to speak about my thoughts on the show. I would like to say the animation from the show looks fantastic to me. It gives out a retro type Disney cartoon style that everybody will enjoy, and it fits very well. Onto the characters, it gives out a very detailed characters such as Sally Alicorn, Bunny Rabbit, and Tony D. Collett, Rocker the Raloose, and many more characters in the show. Then you get Sonic and Tails in the show. And finally, the show has a very real creativity in the plot. As a dedication to the series, this show will remain as a nostalgia. This is Pandamation saying, sayonara folks.
SatAM. We gotta give it up for the name, right? Do you remember all the years of telling people that you were a fan of that Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon? And they were like, oh, you mean that funny, weird one that was kind of like Looney Tunes? Okay, look, I'm not hating on the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I loved all of the amazing YouTube poop that has continued to provide for us.
Why is it funny?
But SatAM, the name. I mean, this was the most logical, I guess, turn, but did we really have to settle on an acronym that made us sound like we were talking about Satan? Every time I've had to type this in, I always capital the A and the M for that reason. I always do. And did you remember thinking that Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever this cartoon was, that nobody but you watched anyway, right, was so much more adventuring than the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog? They should have given it a goofy name, like Misadventures or Wacky Alternate Worlds Adventures. They could have done something else. It would have made it a lot easier to go on talking about this classic television program if I could have just said, yeah, The Adventures one. But no. I guess unfortunately you can't really talk about SatAM on its own without discussing the other properties surrounding it. Here's a thought I have for all SatAM fans. Does anyone remember the morning that they woke up and found out about Sonic Underground? Did that just stick in your craw a little bit?
I'm a teenager. I'm getting ready for school. I don't care about cartoons. Oh, what's this? Childhood passing me by?
Kind of stuck in my craw. Like, okay, this doesn't look like The Adventures, okay. These are some different characters. What's going on? What?
No, Julia White in drag? Oh God, they got to you too. I wish you would talk to Cat Williams. Or you did this.
But by then I found anime, and that kept me all right for a while. And then Sonic found anime, and I thought I'd be so happy. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not SatAM. I digress. But then we got the Archie comics. I don't think anybody can talk about SatAM without having an in-depth discussion about Archie. It's very important. So Sonic found anime.
Strange, isn't it?
Or, I should say, Japan renewed its interest in Sonic. We got Sonic Adventure, Sonic X. All my friends knew I was a Sonic fan. I had kids. I had to keep that thing going. And it was a perfect excuse to continue to read
Archie comics, SatAM, Sonic the Hedgehog.
well into my adulthood. Like, we need an excuse. Anyway, the comics morphed along with whatever Sonic was. And he was kind of turning into a little bit of a homunculus. I don't know if you know what that is, but look it up.
It's weird.
So Sonic was like this hybrid of all of the different universes. We had the games, we had the comics, we weren't gonna have any of the old show again. We need to pay respect to the fact that this has been the property forever, but we don't want to alienate the new fans.
Nah, make his black eyes brown. No, make him green. Can we do something about the arms? I don't think he has enough spikes. Can you put more spikes on him? Yeah, his head's getting kind of big there. Ooh, boy, those hands. All right.
So, Sonic became something weird.
For a while.
And SatAM fans, we hung in there. There was a really cringy period that has been likened to fan fiction. I'm gonna tell you, I read a lot of fan fiction. Man, I used to print that stuff out and bring it to school for my one or two other friends that would indulge me.
Guilty pleasure.
So we had a whole publication of
Archie comics, SatAM, Sonic the Hedgehog.
pretty fan fiction-y stuff. It was kinda cool. I mean, who wouldn't like to know what would happen if Sonic was somehow brought into the real world? Or two stupid, annoying children couldn't be brought into Sonic's world to become
Self-insert character, they're just like you. Stupid human consumers.
best friends. Wouldn't that be great? Who didn't want to see their favorite strong female character as Sailor Moon? Tuxedo Nux. What? And now they're like, remember how we tried to keep you guys fed? It's not gonna work out. I guess that's another thing that keeps this fandom resilient. One thing that keeps this fandom going is fan projects. Not unlike this one. There have been quite a few cinematic attempts in the fandom.
SatAM. What is this name? Where did it come from? What are its origins? Well, I know exactly where it came from, because I witnessed its creation. Flashback to the year 1995. The internet was in its infancy, alternative rock was at its peak, and low-poly video games were all the rage. But I'm getting off tangents. So if you are old enough to remember, or just some plucky young Sonic fan curious about what Grandpa did in the ancient 1990s, the online Sonic fanbase started out as an AOL newsgroup. That's America Online. Think of it as a primitive message board without the fancy avatars or emoticons. But just like message boards, there would be discussions that encompassed all things Sonic, including the cartoons. The issue was that having two of these shows airing simultaneously created confusion whenever someone was talking about a specific show. Plus, it didn't help that one of them was just called Sonic the Hedgehog, since the other had Adventures of in front of it. Now, at the time, we referred to them as either the funny one or the dark one. So one day, people submitted suggestions on how the fans could distinguish these two shows without running into conflict. We were more democratic then, and somewhat civil. Missing those days already, just reminiscing about it. Eventually, everyone decided that SatAM would be the perfect acronym. It was easy to remember, and it eliminated the character space of typing Saturday morning all the time. And thus, history was made and gave birth to an unofficial name of this classic show that's still used to this very day, even by Sega. This is a bit off the cuff, but one of the memories that sticks out the most to me was when the episode Blast to the Past Part 2 was airing. Like all kids, I pretty much mastered the fine art of waking up early, covertly sneaking downstairs to the living room, and catching that first wave of Saturday morning cartoons. As I got older, though, I started developing a more unpredictable routine. Sometimes I'd sleep in, or I'd have some sports-related thing to participate in. Considering these changes in my Saturday morning schedule, I started recording my favorite shows using a VCR timer. It was a genius idea since I could always watch the recordings whenever it was convenient for me. But like all technology, it can't be 100% reliable. So, one day, when I was coming home from practice, I anxiously raced to the VCR in our living room, rewound the tape, and discovered that nothing was recorded. Just 2 hours of a black screen accompanied by an annoying hissing sound. The devastation I felt was indescribable, to where I just broke down and started crying for what seemed like hours. I waited a whole week for the thrilling conclusion of this 2-part episode, and now I was unsure if I'd ever see it again. But as a kid, I didn't really understand the concept of reruns, so it didn't exactly enter my preteen comprehension yet. But fortunately, after waiting 12 weeks for the season to cycle, I eventually saw Blast to the Past Part 2. But speaking of cliffhangers, well, let's just say that's a plight that will forever haunt the fans.
I was reluctant to even bring this up due to the past controversies surrounding it,
But hey, this is a rare occasion, so I thought I'd share it anyway. Believe it or not, I made an ambitious attempt to develop an official Sonic movie. No, seriously, over a decade ago to be exact. I attended pitch meetings with Sega and various studios. I even had a Hollywood agent for a short period. Now, without going into the gritty details, I'll just say that it was a valiant effort that almost came to fruition. It would have involved the return of Deke Animation with the distribution assistance of Universal Pictures, as well as the respected voice cast who were anxious to reprise their roles. It seemed like the stars were aligned, but for some perplexing reason, it just didn't pan out. Mostly due to Sega's Japanese branch, but that's another story. So, shortly after the rejection, I decided to pursue the project as a fan film, resulting in 2 animated trailers and a series of animatics. And what can I say? My team consisted of the most talented and devoted SatAM Sonic fans, to where I thought we had the perfect arsenal to get this thing produced. It would be 2D animated and focused mainly on the SatAM lore with some game mythos peppered in. It was just the perfect fusion. But unfortunately, it succumbed to the dreaded SatAM curse, meaning that if you were involved in any SatAM Sonic related projects, it was doomed to fail. I could talk about examples, but let's just say professionals who are actually involved in the show and comic are not excluded. Thus, SatAM projects continue to press on and hope that one day one of them will actually be completed without setbacks. But hey, at least we're getting an official Sonic movie in 2019. Please don't suck.
Loving something is the fastest way to make more good. This is Laura Blue. Keep on juicin'.